Hello, everybody, once again, and welcome to the podcast. It's 3 a.m., and this is important. I'm Matt, and with me, as always, is Jessy.
Hello, hello.
And today, we have a very exciting little episode for you. So get cozy, grab some hot chocolate, just sit back and relax a little bit. What are we doing?
Today, we're going to read a couple of creepypastas.
Yeah.
Something that really fits with our theme, I think.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I used to read a lot of these. Like, there was a point in my life where basically, this is back when I used to work at Costco.
When you were in high school, right?
After high school.
After
high school.
Okay.
I was working at Costco, so basically I would do this. I would go to work, come home, and just read creepypastas for a good 5 or 6 month stretch.
Yeah.
And that was just my life.
That's
I
some
just really
endurance.
liked it. I just really like them.
Yeah.
I like the idea of them, creepypastas, because they sort of feel like, I don't know, I guess any copypastas really. They're just these stories that are handed down between people.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really have any specific origins or...
It's almost like a creepy email forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the next evolution of that kind of thing. I just like them.
Yeah. I really like that, so I'm not super into it or anything. I haven't in the past. I've read a few, but nothing crazy. But what I really like about it is that it's people are writers. It's making folks writers. There's some good amateurs out there that have...
Yeah, there's great writers out there that are making these things. Yeah. And sometimes people get discovered. And there's full collections of creepypastas that are sold in stores, right?
Mm-hmm. I don't have the name or anything, but when I was looking for some spooky ones, I heard that one guy actually, he had a collection of creepypastas and he turned them into a book and he sold a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Which is just cool. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I guess I'm going to kick things off with something that's not actually a creepypasta, but still is.
Okay.
It's like this, there's a whole series. So the Reddit user Search and Rescue Woods posted on the subreddit No Sleep this series of, I don't know, I guess recounting sort of, here's some stories that have happened to me sort of thing. Kind of just this narrative of things that have happened in his life because he claims to be a search and rescue officer. So they all start off as, hey, I'm a search and rescue officer for the U.S. Forest Service. I have some stories to tell.
Yeah.
So it really comes off as this actually happened, true story. Let me tell you some shit.
Yeah, that seems to be what all creepypastas are like, right? Or all the ones that I've read are hey, I'm so-and-so, and this is my story, basically.
Right. So there's a ton of different styles, right? There's ones that are actually written sort of like narratives. There's some that are written just actual short stories. And there's some that are written from first-person perspective or as sort of a documentive sort of vibe, I guess. And a lot of creepypastas, I think the earlier ones kind of follow that style. Is just here's something that happened. I think that kind of... It hits people in a place because it just does seem like something that could have happened, right?
Right.
And that's kind of what appealed to me, was just the fact that even in fantasy, this stuff could probably happen, even if it might not have happened, it still could have, right?
Mm-hmm.
I like the possibility of it. And I remember when I found this series of I'm a search and rescue officer, I was immediately hooked because it was one of the most fascinating things to me is the woods or the wilderness or anything like that.
Me too.
Anywhere where people don't exist on a regular basis. There's not a large amount of people there ever.
Yeah, where you're miles away from help.
Yeah, and that fascinates me. A lot can go wrong out there. Even the best of us can be caught in bad situations.
Mm-hmm.
So,
as we learned
from 2 episodes ago.
Yeah, 2 episodes. Yeah.
So anyway, I'm going to read the first of, I think, 5 posts that this search and rescue subreddit user posted.
Okay. I'm excited.
All right. So here we go. Cozy up. I wasn't sure where else to post these stories, so I figured I'd share them here. I've been a search and rescue officer for a few years now, and along the way, I've seen some things that I think you guys will be interested in. I have a pretty good track record for finding missing people. Most of the time, they just wander off the path or slip down a small cliff, and they can't find their way back. The majority of them have heard the old stay where you are thing, and they don't wander far. But I've had 2 cases where that didn't happen. Both bother me a lot. And I use them as motivation to search even harder on the missing person cases I get called on. The first was a little boy who was out berry picking with his parents. He and his sister were together, and both of them went missing around the same time. Their parents lost sight of them for a few seconds, and in that time, both the kids apparently wandered off. When their parents couldn't find them, they called us, and we came out to search the area. We found the daughter pretty quickly, and when we asked where her brother was, she told us he'd been taken away by the bear man. She said he gave her berries and told her to stay quiet, and that he wanted to play with her brother for a while. The last she saw of her brother, he was riding on the shoulders of the bear man and seemed calm. Of course, our first thought was abduction, but we never found a trace of another human being in that area. The little girl was also insistent that he wasn't a normal man, but that he was tall and covered in hair like a bear, and they had a weird face. We searched that area for weeks. It was one of the longest calls I've ever been on, but we never found a single trace of that kid. The other was a young woman who was out hiking with her mom and grandpa. According to the mother, her daughter had climbed up a tree to get a better view of the forest, and she'd never come back down.
Wow.
They waited at the base of the tree for hours, calling her name before they called for help. Again, we searched everywhere, and we never found a trace of her. I have no idea where she could have possibly have gone, because neither her mother or grandpa saw her come down.
Just like a big old eagle?
I don't know.
A group of eagles?
A group of eagles swoop down, take her off the top of the tree she just climbed.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
But yeah, and like he's got tons of these stories where it's just kind of unexplainable.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's just like, where did they go? What happened? And you'll never know because it's the wilderness, man.
Yeah.
You know, it's impossible to find people out there sometimes. And that's just how it goes. So anyway, on these posts, he has like multiple short stories, like little stories of like, here's some crazy shit that's happened.
Yeah, like a little tangent kind of thing.
So,
side note.
Well, no, they're not even side notes. They're just like different things, right? They're all different accounts of like, here's some crazy shit that happens as a search and rescue officer.
Okay.
So the next one is, a few times I've been out on my own searching with a canine and they've tried to lead me straight up cliffs. Not hills, not even rock faces, straight sheer cliffs with no possible handholds. It's always baffling, and in these cases, we usually find the person on the other side of the cliff or miles away from where the canine has led us. I'm sure there's an explanation, but it's sort of strange. That's weird.
Yeah.
All right. One particular sad case involved the recovery of a body. A 9-year-old girl found down an embankment and got impaled on a dead tree at the base. Now, immediately, I'm sure that's actually happened, and that's terrifying.
Yep.
It was a complete freak accident, but I'll never forget the sound her mother made when we told her what had happened. She saw the body bag being loaded into the ambulance, and she let out the most haunting, heartbreaking wail I've ever heard. It was like her whole life was crashing down around her, and a part of her had died with her daughter. I heard from another search and rescue officer that she killed herself a few weeks after it happened. She couldn't live with the loss of her daughter. That sucks.
These are just sad.
Yeah.
Mostly. Yeah. Okay. And this is all contained within part 1?
Yeah, this is all part of part 1.
Okay. So I thought it was going to be one long story. I wasn't sure what we were getting into.
Oh, no, they're like multiple little stories of why it's weird out there.
Yeah. No, I dig it.
This next one is interesting. I like the unexplainable stuff, you know, and I'm pretty sure that this has all been found to be fictional. But then again, you never know. Just posted by a guy who just claimed to be what he is, and that's about it. I was teamed up with another search and rescue officer because we'd received reports of bears in the area. Be aware, ya.
There's a bear in the area.
We were looking for a guy who hadn't come home from a climbing trip when he was supposed to. And we ended up having to do some serious climbing to get where we'd figure he'd be. We found him trapped in a small crevasse with a broken leg. It was not pleasant. He'd been there for almost 2 days, and his leg was very obviously infected. We were able to get him to a chopper, And I heard from one of the EMTs that the guy was absolutely inconsolable. He kept talking about how he'd been doing fine, and when he'd gotten to the top, a man had been there. He said the guy had no climbing equipment, and he was wearing a parka and ski pants. He walked up to the guy, and when the guy turned around, he said he had no face. It was just blank. He freaked out, ended up trying to get off the mountain too fast, which is why he'd fallen. He said he could hear the guy all night, climbing down the mountain and letting out these horrible muffled screams.
Oh my God.
The story bothered the hell out of me. I'm glad I wasn't there to hear it.
Yikes.
Now, when I read that one, back when I read it, it like stuck with me.
Yeah.
Like, it's just such a freaky and weird idea. Like, just a normal looking dude in ski pants.
Climbing up and down a sheer face.
With no face.
Yeah. Wow.
Dude had no face and he was muffled screaming.
Yeah.
Like, what? Why would you come up with that?
I don't know.
Like, if you were there and that happened, it's like, you can't. Like,
yeah.
It's unexplainably fucked up. And I'm pretty sure if I ever saw that in real life, I would never be okay. Like,
yeah, I some of the stories I read, like I truly believe they would break you. Like if you actually saw that in real life, like I don't think there's any coming back from that.
No, that would like mentally destroy you, I think.
Yeah, like I
feel like psychologically it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
There's no rhyme or reason to it. It just
weird.
Yeah. All right, so there's two more.
Okay.
One of the scariest things I've ever had happen to me involved the search for a young woman who'd gotten separated from her hiking group. We were out until late at night because the dogs had picked up her scent. When we found her, she was curled up under a large rotted log. She was missing her shoes and pack, and she was clearly in shock. She didn't have any injuries, and we were able to get her to walk with us back to the base ops. Along the way, she kept looking behind us and asking us why that big man with black eyes was following us. We couldn't see anyone, so we just wrote it off as some weird symptom of shock, but the closer we got to base, the more agitated this woman got. She kept asking me to tell him to stop making faces at her. At one point, she stopped and turned around and started yelling into the forest, saying that she wanted him to leave her alone. She wasn't going to go with him, she said, and she wouldn't give us to him. We finally got her to keep moving, but we started hearing these weird noises coming from all around us. It was almost like coughing, but more rhythmic and deeper. It was almost like insect-like. I don't really know how else to describe it. When we were within sight of base ops, the woman turns to me, and her eyes are about as wide as I can imagine a human could open them. She touches my shoulder and says, "He says to tell you to speed up. He doesn't like looking at the scar on your neck." I have a very small scar on the base of my neck, but it's mostly hidden under my collar, and I have no idea how this woman saw it. Right after she says it, I hear that weird coughing right in my ear, and it just about jumped out of my skin. I hustled her to ops, trying not to show how freaked out I was, but I have to say I was really happy when we left the area that night.
Jeez. Oh, I don't like that. Ugh.
And that's the idea of like hearing all these like rhythmic noises in the dark just coming from all around you. That's the part that freaks me out the most.
Yeah.
It also reminds me of like those stories about when you're in the woods and you hear like a baby crying or something. And it's like some cryptid that can mimic human noises and stuff. So yeah.
Actually, really quick side note about that. I have a quick story. You know Landry.
Yeah.
You've met Landry a bunch of times.
For sure.
He was staying in Crow's Nest Pass, which for those who don't know is just a fairly remote mountainous region. Like it's right on the edge of the Rockies.
Right.
Super remote. And he was staying in a cabin alone.
Okay.
Anyways, he sends me like this series of Snapchats, and he's like, he's out on like the wraparound porch that this cabin had, and he's like, "Hey, it sounds like there's a woman screaming or something out here," and like Ed's freaking out, and I have no idea what's going on. And cougars actually can make like a fairly convincing noise.
They sound like a woman screaming.
Yeah, that sounds like a woman screaming. And he's like, "Yeah, it sounds like super close." And of course, he's just like smiling in the video, and he sent like multiple videos. And like, I'm so glad I saw it right away because I was like, dude, it's a fucking cougar. Get the hell inside and like bring your dog in.
Yeah.
And, oh my gosh. But yeah, that's so creepy.
Yeah, we used to get those at camp as well.
Yeah. Oh, so you've heard them too. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I've heard them like in person.
It's really unsettling, isn't it? Yeah. Like it really makes your skin crawl.
Yeah, no matter what, it still sounds like a woman crying.
Yeah.
Or like screaming.
Yeah.
Which is terrifying. All right, here's the last one.
Okay.
This is the last one I'll tell, and it's probably the weirdest story I have. Now, I don't know if this is true in every search and rescue unit, but in mine, it's sort of an unspoken regular thing we run into. You can try asking about it with other search and rescue officers, but even if they know what you're talking about, they probably won't say anything about it. We've been told not to talk about it by our supervisors and our superiors, and at this point, we've all gotten so used to it that it doesn't even seem weird anymore. On just about every case where we're really far into the wilderness, I'm talking like 30, 40 miles, at some point we'll find a staircase in the middle of the woods. It's almost like if you took the stairs in your house, cut them out, and put them in the forest. I asked about it the first time I saw some, and the other officer just told me not to worry about it, that it was normal. Everyone I asked said the same thing. I wanted to go check them out, but I was told very emphatically that I should never go near any of them. I sort of ignore them now when I run into them because it happens so frequently.
Yeah, that's creepy.
Right? Like,
That's
of all the
creepy.
things you could find in the woods, just a perfectly constructed staircase.
Maybe like one, you could maybe explain that away to some weirdo, but like
Yeah, it's
they
like there
see
used
it.
to be a house here or something, or
Yeah, they see it on like
a
every
regular basis,
deep woods excursion. Yeah, that's weird.
right?
That's really
Like there's
weird.
always there's a bunch of staircases in the woods. Why? Who fucking knows?
But it's creepy.
Oh, it's creepy.
It sure is creepy. Ugh.
Yeah, I hate the idea of like, honestly, I want it to happen someday though. I want to be in the woods and I want to find a staircase.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It's just like, I just want to.
Would you climb it?
No.
No, straight up. No,
No,
thank
because
you.
I've read the rest of these and it's freaked me out enough that I won't.
All right. Okay. I assume horrible things happen if you climb the stairs.
Yeah, apparently you just die. Like that's what happens. You just have like a heart attack and you die.
Huh.
Yeah, if you try to climb them.
Okay.
So, yeah, if you find staircases in the woods, don't climb them or you'll die.
Yeah.
Or do, because that's probably bullshit. But whatever. Have fun.
Yeah.
So that's my first story.
I like it. I like those.
Because I don't know. There's something about it just being like, it's told so well that it almost just seems like it happened.
Mm-hmm.
So you can suspend your disbelief for a second and just like buy into it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I like so much about it. So yeah, if you want to check them out, it's on r/NoSleep, posted by You Search and Rescue Woods, from 2015. Great series. Check it out.
Cool.
Definitely recommend it. Maybe we'll even do an episode or something on it sometime. But yeah, moving on. I believe it's your turn.
Yeah. So mine's a little bit longer. A couple disclaimers about it. It can be slightly confusing at times. It can be a little juvenile at times because it's
Sure.
told from a first-person perspective of someone that's a teenager.
Okay.
But the actual premise itself is terrifying to me. So I really felt connected to this one. It spooked me out probably the most.
Hell yeah.
So we're going to go with it.
All right. I dig it.
Yeah. Okay, so the first part of the story here is green text. So it's basically just bullet points with like really quick bits of information so you can quickly get context.
Okay, good.
All right, so the creepypasta is titled Anansi's Goatman Story.
Goatman.
Apparently there's a few of these out there.
Yeah, it's a
But-
pretty famous cryptid.
Yeah, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Here's my story. Be 16, be black, and have family down in Alabama. They farm and own a huge amount of land down in Huntsville. Uncle owns a big house and a bunch of trailers they put out in the woods for hunting and camping. Down south, cousins suggest that we go out there to camp. Know I'm a city kid from Chicago, so they tease the fuck out of me. Collect food, kill a pig and some chickens, and bring necessities to camp out for a few days. We get to the camp and it's obvious something is weird. Air has this weird electric smell like right before a storm, like ozone. We think nothing of it and unpack and go down to a little creek to swim for a few hours. All of a sudden, some older white guy and a white teenager come out of the bushes. He has a shotgun in the crook of his arm and says hello and asks us what we're doing this far back in the woods. Tell him about my uncle, who he knows, and say we're camping out. He tells us we need to be real careful out there and stick together. There was a big animal in the woods.
Oh, no.
His son, who is my age, asks if he can stay and hang out with us. He says okay. I'm going to stop green texting because the story is fairly long and the format is harder to write in. So we end up playing football. Dicking around with me, there's the white kid, Tanner, 5 of my cousins, and then 4 of their friends. In total, there were 5 girls and 6 boys. We were all around 15 to 17. We ended up just dicking the day away. So we head back to the camp and pulling out some stuff for a campfire, even though the trailers both had kitchenettes. Tanner says that his family's property sits up against my uncle's. He wants to run home and asks his dad if he can come out camping with us. My cousin Rooster says he's going to go with him since it's going to get dark soon. One of the girls also wants to tag along. It's about 7 o'clock and it's starting to get pretty dark. They take flashlights and take the trail towards Tan's property. The rest of us chill. We make s'mores, drink, and kiss on the girls.
Kissing on the girls.
Kissing them girls. Couple of smooches.
Couple of smooches.
About 30 or 40 minutes later, there's the smell of ozone again. You could smell it over the smell of the fire we had started. This really nasty, coppery smell, like right after you've had a nosebleed and it stopped. It wasn't exactly like dried blood, but it was that nasty, metallic, back of your throat smell. We immediately think that it's some kind of electrical malfunction, or someone left a hot plate on or some shit. We search the trailers and nothing is on, and we can all smell it. All of a sudden, we can hear people booking down the path towards us, and Rooster, Tan, and the girl all come running into the clearing, out of breath. And they don't even break a stride. They all run into the trailer, right by where the fire is. We all get the fuck out of there and into the trailers. They end up calming down. Even Rooster is crying his fucking eyes out at this point. All the while, the fire is guttering lower and lower. So my other cousin says, fuck it, and are about to go outside to get the generator out of the shed between the trailers. Tanner goes, fuck no, lock the front door, ain't nobody else going outside. He's been crying too, and his eyes are bloodshot and puffy, and his pants are dirty as shit. He goes on to tell us that they went up to his house. His father said sure, he could go out camping, but to make sure they were careful on the way back, and that maybe they should take one of the hunting rifles, just in case. Evidently, Tanner had seen something in their yard a few days before. One of their pigs had come up, ripped up, and half-eaten. They assumed it was just some big cats or coyotes, even though they don't usually fuck with live animals. He'd gone upstairs and packed his stuff, and told his dad they would be okay without the rifle because coyotes avoid people. So they started walking back towards where we were camping. So, Rooster finally stops crying and shaking. The girl already had. But she was just staring out the window with a dumb look on her face. He says they had gotten halfway into the woods towards the camp when they started to hear shit in the forest.
Of course.
Right? It was almost pitch black by this time, so they weren't sure at first what the fuck it was. The girl says that she heard something in the bushes right off the trail, and they all beamed their flashlights over there, and there was someone standing back in the woods in a little hollow. Rooster said they shouted at him and told him that he was scaring the fuck out of them and what a dick move this was. He says that's when he realized that the guy was facing away from them. So they keep walking, and they start smelling the nasty, coppery ozone smell. They say that they look off into the forest on the opposite side, and it's a dude standing in the forest, backward, slightly closer to the path. So now they start power walking, and Tan keeps going. I should have taken the fucking rifle. As they're telling the story, the smell is super strong, even inside the cabin.
Oh, no.
They say that after they started walking faster, a kind of low, gibbering sound had started coming from both sides of the wood. And as they started booking it back to the trailer, the girl said she had flashed her flashlight out into the woods to the side of them and had seen something jerking itself through the woods. The gibbering just got louder and louder. And when they could see the light from our campfire, something had come out of the woods about 40 yards behind them onto the track.
Oh, shit.
And they had just flat out ran as hard as they could to get to the trail.
Yeah, makes sense.
To get to the trailer. Yeah. Whew. Creepy already. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like it. So we're out in the fucking woods, and we're assuming at this point it's some rednecks or some shit trying to fuck with us.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, my other cousin, Junior, starts going on about how he went to school with a native kid that was telling him about the goatman or some shit. We promptly tell him to shut the fuck up because we don't need any spooky talk right now.
Right.
But he just keeps going on and on about how it's the fucking goatman and how we're in his woods and blah, blah, blah. Now, at the time, I had never heard of this goatman or any of that. But then a couple years ago, the year before I graduated from college, I had a menom for a roommate, and I ended up asking him about it. And to sum it up, it's basically a fucking man with the head of a goat, and he can shapeshift, and he gets among groups of people to terrorize them. It's also supposed to be kind of like Wendigo, and it's bad mojo to even talk about it, and even worse if you see it.
Right.
Keep in mind, I didn't know this back when I was 16. So my cousin is going. The goatman's going to get in and fucking get us. The girls are all terrified, and my cousins and I are all fucking trying to figure out if it's just some hillbillies or if it's some animal.
Right.
So all of a sudden, the smell goes away. Like to this day, I haven't even experienced anything like it. Like usually smells fade away or lessen. It just literally was there 1 second and then not the next. So it's after an hour, making it around 9 or 10. We've stopped shitting bricks enough to go back outside and stoke the fire again. We figure it was just some assholes trying to fuck with us. So we don't go back home because we think if we do, they'll chase us through the woods or some crazy shit.
Sure, that's wise.
Sure, man. Yeah. Stay. There's like so many points in this story. Like leave, guys, please.
Guys, just go.
Ugh. Anyway, nothing else weird happens that night. And we stay another night. And for the main part of the night, nothing happens. At about 1 a.m, we're outside getting drunk and telling ghost stories. As someone is finishing some too spooky story, I don't remember what about, the smell comes back. It's so fucking strong that one of the girls literally starts vomiting.
Oh.
I stand up, and you can actually feel how clammy the air is. I say we should get inside, and this isn't right. We should have just fucking left.
Yep.
We all go back inside, and we're standing around. My cousin just keeps going on about how it's the goatman, and my cousin Rooster tries to shut him the fuck up. And all the while, I'm just feeling that something is wrong, and I can't figure out what the fuck it is. We end up sitting in there for a while. The smell is just as strong, and we're terrified and all huddled in this camper. We end up cooking brats for everyone because nobody wants to go outside. It's one of those packs with 4 brats. We have a total of 3 packs. I grill them up on the stove and give everybody a hot dog. I get mine. After a while, one of my cousins gets up and goes over to the pot to get another one. He starts grumbling about how I get 2 brats and everyone else only got 1. And I look at him like he's fucking stupid. I tell him that everybody only got 1 because there were only 12 brats. If he wants more, he should open up a new pack and cook some more. That's when the girl that had been out with Rooster and Tan just starts screaming, "Oh, Jesus! Oh, Lord, get it out!" She starts crying and shivering, and then it dawns on the cousin standing up what the fuck is wrong. Me and him both glance around the room, and then I feel my heart fucking sink. I run the fuck out of the cabin, and the girl runs out with us. The trailer door is banging against the side of the trailer as everybody books it out of the cabin. One of my cousin's friends asks us what the fuck is wrong. I start counting us. There's only 11 now. I shit you not, my cousin verified. There had been 12 people in the cabin. But being that everybody didn't really know each other well, nobody had really noticed the whole fucking time that there was an extra person.
Oh.
Right? And then I realized earlier that I had kind of noticed something was off. You know how when you're just dicking around having a good time that you don't really sweat the small shit? And you don't always keep track of certain stuff. I'm dead sure that somebody else had been in the trailer with us and that they had been there for at least a fucking day, eating with us. What makes it worse is I could figure out which one because I don't think anyone ever actually interacted with the other person / the goat man.
Right.
The girl kept praying to Jesus and we're all sitting outside. Eventually, we get big ass sticks and go back in the cabin, but there's nobody in there. We count again and there's 11 people. We go back into the trailer and lock the door. We explain what the fuck happened, and the girl says that she realized too, and that when he was about to say something, the person sitting next to her had grabbed her leg hard and leaned over towards her and said something she couldn't understand.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So we were pretty much scared as fuck as we huddled together, and I fall asleep. When I wake up, the sun is just coming up, and half the people are asleep, and the other half are packing our shit up. We all want to walk back home, but like 4 people want to stay until the sun is all the way up. And some people think that we're just fucking around and still want to stay at the trailers. I just want to get the fuck out of the woods.
Yeah.
The girl's name was Kira, the one that the goat man had touched. Anyway, I asked her if she really thinks it was something bad. And she says she just wants to go home and she doesn't want to be out in the woods alone for another night. So we decide to split up. The 4 that want to go can go, but I have to stay because I have the keys to the cabin and it's my uncle's and I have to lock up. I'm super pissed at this point because I feel like people aren't taking this shit seriously. And I definitely didn't want to be out in the woods for another night. I spend the rest of the day trying to convince the rest of the people, now 4 girls and 4 guys, to get the fuck out of Dodge. Tanner leaves with them to go get a rifle and says he's going to be back. So there are just 7 of us left by 4 p.m. At around 5 p.m., he hasn't made it back out. And we're getting extremely fucking antsy. And the only reason I stopped begging them to go back was because he went to get a gun. It's about 5:30 p.m. or so, when the one cousin that did stay says that the girl Kira is outside. We all look outside, and sure enough, she's standing by the fire pit with her back to the cabin. I'm thinking to myself, if she was so fucking scared, why the hell would she come back? And then I get this nasty feeling in my gut. Keep in mind, the whole time the coppery smell has been gone too. But now I realize I can smell just a twinge of it. I say this to the rest of them and everybody. And these are the people that wanted to stay in the fucking woods after we had the goddamn goat man in our midst, is laughing at me and asking if I set this up to scare them. I'm looking at them like, I'm not fucking bullshitting you at all right now. I ask them, why the fuck would I play like that? So one of the girls goes outside to get Kira. She gets halfway to her and stops cold. Kira starts heaving. I don't know how the fuck to describe it. Sort of like someone with their back turned was laughing without actually making any sound. It was this fact that made me realize that there was not a fucking sound in the woods. It was dead silent. This was like later in September, so it was still fairly hot at the time, but it was super chilly some days too. You could usually hear big-ass geese honking or some kind of birds or squirrels chit-chatting.
It's never good when you hear silence in the woods. I think that's the thing, right?
Yeah,
That means
never.
there's a predator nearby.
Never. So I step out of the door and tell her to come back in the fucking trailer right goddamn now. She backs up into the trailer and we lock the fucking door. We pull down all the shades except one and put a guy there in a chair to watch her. She stands there for another 20 minutes or so. The guy turns to say that she's still there. And then there's a huge fucking bang on the door. We all jump the fuck up and scramble around the living room of the trailer. The banging is super fucking loud. So now my cousin is holding one of the girls, and the other 2 are kind of giggling with nervous laughter, and me and the other 2 guys are shitting bricks. Then we hear Tan. He's screaming, "Let me the fuck in! Stop fucking playing!" So we go over to the door and open it, and he stumbles in with a rifle. There's nobody else outside.
Oh, no.
Evidently, he had walked up to the campsite. Nothing weird happened in the forest, but he had seen a girl. Mind you, he said it was not Kira standing there. When he had gotten to the edge of the clearing, she had turned towards him with a slack-jawed look and just stared him down, slowly tracking him as he walked around the outside of the clearing towards the camp. He said it wasn't until he was almost halfway to the trailer he had realized that she was getting closer to him. She had started off by the fire, and without him even seeing her move, she had been turning, inching closer. He said he just ran the rest of the way back to the cabin, thinking it would open. And when he got to the door and it was locked, he turned and it was about half the distance to the door. He looks around the room and then gets super pale. He pulls me to the side and whispers in my ear, "You know there are only 7 of us in here, right?" I get that feeling where your stomach drops to your nuts. It had been back inside the trailer while we were sorting out who was going where. And then, when we all went outside to talk earlier in the day, it had just slipped right back in.
Oh.
We looked out at the window and there is nobody out there. So we recount everyone, and then basically I go over and ask everybody how many people were here earlier, and everybody says 8. I say, well, how many are here now? They all do the count and then realize that there are only now 7 people in the cabin. So Tan had brought back a couple boxes of ammo and his rifle. He had told his dad that there was some kind of animal in the forest because he didn't think his dad would believe him if he said it was the goat man. He says that his cousin is supposed to be coming down in a few hours and that in the morning we can all go back to his place and his cousin will drive us home. Now I'm really fucking terrified, but I at least feel better because we can be American and shoot the fuck out of whatever it is if it comes back.
Fair.
Right? But then my cousin gets into this huge argument with one of the girls because she thinks that I'm trying to be funny and prank them and that she's getting really scared and that I'm not funny. He keeps telling her that I'm not that kind of person, and she says, well, how do we know the girl wasn't just Tanner in a wig? Or if it's really the goat man, how do we know that this is the real Tanner and that goat man didn't just kill Tanner in the woods and take his gun? So we fucking get in a huge argument about this, where me and Tan are like, we could seriously be in danger because at the very least, someone has been sneaking themselves into our fucking trailer without us knowing and mingling with us. And at worst, something bad is in the forest fucking with us.
Right.
One of the girls is crying and saying she wants to go right now. and we're trying to tell her that we shouldn't because none of us are walking through the woods in the middle of the night. At this point, the sun is starting to go down and it's getting a little cloudy out. We eat something and turn on the radio for a while, but we can't really get a station out there with anything decent. So we turn it off at about the time that Tan's cousin shows up. He was like 19, I think. At this point, the sun is just barely over the horizon, and he has one of those heavy-duty lantern flashlights and another rifle. He walks up to the trailer, and we whisper to Tan, asking if he's sure that's his cousin. And he says yes. The guy looks behind him and all around the camp, then walks in. He kind of glances at all of us and looks a little confused. He says, "Where's your other little buddy at? I figured she would meet me at the cabin. Is she a little slow or something?" He also asked whether we had all been cooking blood in the cabin, because it smelt like blood and hot pans all the way up the trail. We were all like, fucking nope. But we asked him what the fuck he's talking about with the girl he saw. He had come down the same trail Tan had been using, and he had come up on one of you guys' buddies standing in the middle of the trail, looking at him slack-jawed. He had asked her a bunch of questions, but all she did was just look at him. Then she smiled at him, and he said he kept walking. She couldn't seem to keep up with him and kept lagging a little behind him. He said he asked her if she was hurt or something and if she needed any help, but she had continued to stare. Eventually, he had been walking and turned around a bend in the trail. But when he turned around and went back to see if she was okay, the trail was empty.
Huh.
He'd assumed she had taken some sort of cut through the woods to our trailer. We tell him the whole story of what's been going on. I half expected him to say we were full of shit, but he just listened and then sat down on the couches in the living room. Tanner's cousin gets back to the girl. He says when she had kept trying to lag behind him, it had kind of weirded him the fuck out. So he tried to keep her in front of him. But no matter how slow he walked, she was always lagging a little behind. And then he smelled this nasty smell, and it got stronger as he got to camp. Eventually, it got really strong. She had said something really low that he didn't catch, and when he had turned around, she had been right the fuck up on him, and he stepped back away from her. It was at this point he asked her if she was okay, and if she wasn't, him to carry her back the rest of the way, and she just kept staring. He said he reached out for her, as in to grab her on the shoulder, but he must have misjudged the distance because she was off to the side of where he had put his hand, like she had moved while he was looking dead at her. So at this point, we know this shit is real, unless Tan is playing a joke, which we can all tell he's not because he's almost pissing his pants. So they load up their rifles, we eat some more, and we just kind of sit around until about 11. To this fucking day, every time I think about this, I really pray to God that it's some huge prank that my cousins played on me and just never revealed, so I'd be scared for the rest of my life.
Sure.
At around 11, the stink of copper turns into an actual nasty, gross, blood-like smell, like cooking blood and singed hair. Tan and his cousin Reese get the fuck up instantly and grab their rifles. There's like a half knocking, half clawing at the door, and I shit you not, there's this voice. And it sounds like when you see those YouTube cats and dogs whose owners teach them how to talk. It says in this halting, weirdly toned voice, "Let me the fuck in, stop fucking playing." Made my fucking nuts creep up against my body. And one of the girls just starts crying and calling on Jesus.
Oh, yeah. I mean, what are you going to do, right?
Yeah. It was so fucking obviously not a person talking. It didn't have the right cadence. And that's some shit that I never realized until that moment. But all people have a certain cadence when they talk. No matter what language, all people have a certain kind of rhythm to talking. This shit didn't have any kind of cadence or rhythm. One of those YouTube cats, that's what the fuck it sounded like outside the door. So now I'm in full-on terror mode. We keep yelling outside, "Who is it? Stop fucking around, man." And it just keeps saying "in" or "let me the fuck in" for almost 15 minutes. So then the smell goes away for a while. And for the next hour or so, you can hear someone basically creeping around in the woods and shit. Every couple minutes, it'll come back into the door and say something. It's about 2 o'clock in the morning when the smell finally fades. Reese says, "Man, fuck this," and opens the door and walks outside with his rifle.
Smart.
Smart. Get him, Reese. He fires a shot into the air and says something to the effect of, "In the name of Jesus Christ, go away." He fires 2 more times. And then from the woods, right up against the river, across from the trailer, it sounds like something is slowly gibbering and hooting. Then it starts screaming, and it sounds almost like a woman and a cat in a bag screaming together. Like I seriously have never heard anything like that. And you can hear the brush over that way start to shake. Reese fires over into the tree line and then starts backing into the house. We lock the door and we can hear this shit keening and screaming. Reese says something had come out of the bushes, super low to the ground and crawling towards the cabin. He had shot at it.
Well, I hate that.
Yeah. Don't get low. Stay up high.
Yeah.
Not too high, not too low. Goldilocks that shit.
Yeah. We don't need no low crawling monsters coming toward us.
Goatman. Yeah.
The hell you doing?
Pretty much. That was how the rest of the night went. It was literally screaming constantly for the next 2 hours, and we could hear shit moving out in the tree line. But it never came back up to the cabin until everyone had finally fallen asleep. Tan had been sitting in the chair watching the door with his rifle. Nobody else heard or saw this, and he told me 2 days later, after the whole thing was over. He said he had been nodding off after the screaming and noises finally stopped, and he had been almost asleep when he saw someone come out of the bathroom and then lay down in the middle of the floor and go to sleep. He just assumed it was one of us, and he had nodded off. Then he said he kind of realized something was wrong, and while pretending to be sleeping, he counted us. There were 9 people in the cabin. He basically didn't want to try to shoot at the fucking thing in the cabin and have it kill us all then and there, or have Reese wake up and start shooting and then we kill ourselves. So he just stayed awake all night, pretending to be asleep. He said sometimes it would stand up and kind of do this weird jittery thing, or heave like it was laughing, but then it would lay back down. The story closes pretty weak because from my perspective, nothing happened. We woke up and I noticed that Tan was a little jittery and that he was avoiding looking at all of us. But we ate some breakfast, packed up, and started walking to his house. He stayed last in the cabin and said he'd lock up and bring me my uncle's keys and to just start walking and that he'd catch up, which I didn't really want to fucking do. We got a little bit up the path, and when he came running up, basically, we just jogged back to his house. His cousin took us home. There was a window in the bathroom. Tan had gone back to lock up and looked in there. We were too stupid to lock a screenless window. The window was all fucked up when he went in there. I'm guessing it had been doing that all along, waiting for us to fall asleep or slip up, and then getting in among us. It walked with us all the goddamn way back to his house. He said it lagged to the back of the group and looked him dead in the eyes before walking into the woods. That's a goatman.
Damn.
Not like crazy, brutal or anything. A little confusing there. I did the math on how many people were there and the numbers they were putting up, and it all makes sense.
Right.
But yeah, just the idea that this thing like just wanted to intermingle and like didn't actually hurt them.
Yeah, it's creepy. It's almost like it's trying to integrate into society.
Yeah, or
but
that
it needs practice.
Yeah, or that it's lonely, or maybe it's like feeding off of their fear instead.
Yeah,
or something. But just the idea of like being with like some semi strangers.
Yeah,
and not realizing that like there's someone among them, and like I don't know,
yeah, I like those stories.
Really,
that don't really end in anything violent or anything, but it's just like really psychologically just like disturbing, I guess.
Yeah, I thought that was just.
And that actually like reminds me a little bit of the stories I've read about running into people in the woods. The one thing you don't want to run into
is like other people.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And the stories that I've read kind of coincide with like the shapeshifter thing, because I remember reading this one story that stuck with me. This guy who was like a repairman. Mm-hmm. He would have to go into like wooded areas and go into fix boxes and stuff that were like locked up on trails, right? Like fix electrical boxes that feed certain things or whatever. So this guy goes into the woods, and then some dude just walks up behind him when he was like on the ladder. He didn't think anything of it, didn't talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just kind of standing there. And then when he looked at him, he was like, this guy's head is too big for his body.
Okay.
And like, it was the only thing that could like, he looked like a normal guy.
Yeah.
Wearing like just like casual clothes, like khakis and a button-up shirt. Mm-hmm. But apparently his head was just big.
Which is so weird because like that is terrifying. Like picturing that in my head and like having that be like the only thing. But
like what's up with this guy? He's also not talking to him. And then what the weird part of it is this guy with the big head and everything just walks into the woods.
Never to be seen again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like looks at him and walks. Casually, just slowly into the woods and just keeps going.
Oh, that's so weird. I don't want to see that. Oh my God. I have a really quick story too of like a similar vein. And yeah, it's not real. Of course, it was just another no sleep thing or something. But
yeah,
this guy and his dad are on a quadding trip, and it's like late fall. Like there's snow on the ground and stuff, but like not so much that they can't use their quads. So they follow this like trailhead and they're like 50 miles in deep country and they decide to set up camp for the night.
Okay.
And it's fucking cold. Like it is late fall. There's snow on the ground. They set up a little fire. They've got like a little log that they're sitting on. They're all freaking bundled up in like winter gear and stuff. And in scrolls this guy into the firelight wearing flip-flops, shorts, and a t-shirt.
I've seen that
and
story.
He doesn't like say anything and he sits on the log for like a minute and they're freaking the fuck out internally. I have no idea what's going on. And he just gets up and walks out without saying anything. And that's it.
Like, what the fuck?
But like, yeah, this guy should be dead. He obviously, and apparently this guy looked pristine.
Yeah.
Like no signs of travel or weariness or being cold or anything. Just a dude in flip-flops, summer wear.
Slipped into existence for a second and
sat down beside him and without a word was gone.
What the fuck?
Should be so creepy.
What? How?
There's something about the deep woods stuff, you know?
Yeah, dude, it's weird out there, man. Like, it's one of the only places that I still find like eerie, you know? Like, it's hard to be there.
That big head story, sorry, just to cut back to it, that actually might fuck me up for a few days. Because like, I just...
Right? It's just so subtle, but like, it's freaky, right?
Yeah.
And there's other stories out there of like people running into people in the woods and they're like faces off.
Jeez.
You know, like they look human, but also not quite, you know?
Yeah.
So it's almost like these beings that exist in the woods that are trying to become people, but they don't have enough exposure. So they're just like figuring it out.
Yeah. Oh, I hate that. Now I'm thinking about like hiking culture.
Right.
So I used to be like, do some like, I don't know, I did some fairly intense hiking, I guess, in the backwoods and through stuff.
Right.
In my early 20s. And it was always a thing. Like when you're really out there, I'm not talking like Banff where you see someone every like 3 minutes or something, but when you're like deep in a trail and stuff, you always say hi. If you run into another group or like another person.
Sure.
I don't know what it is, but like you always
Well, I think it might just be
hi.
to like make sure they're doing all right and everything, but without like actually going in depth.
Yeah. But maybe that's part of it is like, hey, we need to make sure this dude in the middle of nowhere is
a person.
Is a person and is not a threat to us. I wonder if that's like part of the psychology behind it.
Maybe it is. Yeah.
Yeah. You always say hi. You usually have like a 1 to 2 minute long chat and then you're off on your separate ways.
Yeah.
But I wonder if that's our way of being like, hey, you're not a killer, right?
Like, you're not going to murder me and leave me out here, are you?
Yeah. Your head's the normal size, right?
Yeah. Your head looks normal.
Yeah.
You're just going to start paying attention to people's head size and be like, you're not a human.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh, man.
All right. I think you got one more, right?
Yeah, I got one more little one. It's a very popular one.
Okay.
Not insanely long or anything, but it's just like, it's another one of those things. It's like, I feel like it could have happened, you know, in some small town somewhere, something like this might have happened.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what immerses me in the story a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And even the way that it's told, there's kind of like a little write-up just about it. It's called Candle Cove. It's one of the more famous ones. So Candle Cove is attributed to or credited to Chris Straub on creepypasta.com. I think he wrote it. I think he might be the original writer. Either that or he procured it somewhere else. But the way creepypastas work is it's hard to find their origins usually.
Right.
So yeah, there's a little write-up about Candle Cove. Candle Cove is a widely known and popular creepypasta about a fictional television series recollected by a number of posters on a childhood nostalgia forum. As the posters share their recollections, the things they collectively remember become more and more sinister, with the characters featured clearly being unsuitable for children's viewing. Notable examples are the laughingstock, the boat that is alive and sports a huge mouth, Horace Horrible, a one-eyed character with 2 large teeth, and most famously, a skeleton character known as the Skin Taker, who wears the flesh of children over his naked bones.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, this was a kid's show?
Well, the idea is that this kid's show existed on like a local public access network.
Yeah.
And the parents of these kids didn't know they were watching this. These kids were like too young to really know what they were watching.
Yeah.
So now they're looking back on it
Oh, okay. I see. And this
And
is
it's
where the
starting to jog
nostalgia
there.
board.
Yeah,
Yeah.
someone initially kicks it off, and then other people are like, I remember seeing that. And up until now, it's just been a memory of like a random show I used to watch. But now that I think about it, it's like, holy shit, this happened.
Hey, yo, that show ain't right.
Yeah. So I've actually read a couple that are like this.
Okay.
And it is a cool concept, I think.
Yeah.
So anyway, what I'm going to do is basically just read screen names and what they wrote.
Perfect.
On this forum. So Net Nostalgia Forum, television, in parentheses, local. All right. Shy Shale 33. Subject, Candle Cove Local Kids Show, ? Does anyone remember this kids show? It was called Candle Cove, and I must have been 6 or 7. I never found a reference to it anywhere, so I think it was on a local station around 71, 72. I lived in Ironton at the time. I don't remember which station, but I do remember it was on at a weird time, like 4 p.m. All right. Mike Painter, 65. Subject, Candle Cove Local Kids Show. It seems really familiar to me. I grew up outside of Ashland and was 9 years old in 72. Candle Cove, was it about pirates? I remember a pirate marionette at the mouth of a cave talking to a little girl. Shy Shale 33. Subject, Candle Cove Local Kids Show. Yes, okay, I'm not crazy. I remember Pirate Percy. I was always kind of scared of him. He looked like he was built from parts of other dolls, real low budget. His head was an old porcelain baby doll, looked like an antique that didn't belong on the body. I don't remember what station this was. I don't think it was WTSF, though. Jaren _2005. Sorry to resurrect this old thread, but I know exactly what show you mean. Sky Shale. I think Candle Cove ran for only a couple of months in 71, not 72. I was 12 and I watched it a few times with my brother. It was channel 58, whatever station that was. My mom would let me switch to it after the news. Let me see what I remember. It took place in Candle Cove, and it was about a little girl who imagined herself to be friends with pirates. The pirate ship was called the Laughingstock. Pirate Percy wasn't a very good pirate because he got scared too easily. And there was calliope music constantly playing. I don't remember the girl's name. Janice or Jade or something. I think it was Janice. Sky Shale 33. Thank you, Jaren. Memories flooded back when you mentioned the Laughingstock in Channel 58. I remember the bow of the ship was a wooden smiling face with the lower jaw submerged. It looked like it was swallowing the sea, and it had that awful Ed Wynn voice and laugh. I especially remember how jarring it was when they switched from the wooden/plastic model to the foam puppet version of the head that talked. Mike _Painter 65. Haha, I remember now too. Do you remember this part? Sky Shale, you have to go inside. Sky Shale 33. Oh, Mike, I got a chill reading that. Yes, I remember. That's when the ship always told Percy when there was a spooky place he had to go in, like a cave or a dark room where the treasure was. And the camera would push in on Laughingstock's face with each pause. You have to go inside. With his two eyes askew and that flopping foam jaw and the fishing line that opened and closed it, it just looked so cheap and awful. You guys remember the villain? He had a face that was just a handlebar mustache above a really tall, narrow teeth.
All right.
Kevin _Hart. I really hope it was the real Kevin Hart. I honestly thought the villain was Pirate Percy. I was about 5 when the show was on. Nightmare Fuel. Jaren _2005. That wasn't the villain. The puppet with the mustache that was the villain's sidekick, Horace Horrible. He had a monocle too, but it was on the top of the mustache. I used to think that it meant he only had one eye. But yeah, the villain was another marionette, the Skin Taker. I can't believe what they let us watch back then. Kevin _Hart. Jesus H. Christ, the Skin Taker. What kind of a kid show were we watching? I seriously could not look at the screen when the Skin Taker showed up. He just descended out of nowhere on his strings, just a dirty skeleton wearing that brown top hat and cape. And his glass eyes were too big for his skull. Christ almighty. Sky Shale 33. Wasn't his top hat and cloak all sewn up crazily? What was that supposed to be? Children's skin? Mike Painter 65. Yeah, I think so. I remember his mouth didn't open and close. His jaw just slid back and forth. I remember the little girl said, "Why does your mouth move like that?" And the Skin Taker didn't look at the girl, but at the camera and said, "To grind your skin."
Oh my God.
Cool, dude. Skyshale 33. I'm so relieved that other people remember this terrible show. I used to have this awful memory, a bad dream I had where the opening jingle ended, show faded in from black, and all the characters were there, but the camera was just cutting to each of their faces, and they were just screaming. And the puppets and marionettes were all flailing spastically and just all screaming. The girl was just moaning and crying like she had been there for hours. I woke up many times from that nightmare. I used to wet the bed when I had it. Kevin_Hart. I don't think that was a dream. I remember that. I remember that was an episode.
Oh my God.
Skyshale 33. No, not possible. There was no plot or anything. I mean, literally just standing in place, crying and screaming for the whole show. Kevin Hart. Maybe I'm manufacturing the memory because you said that, but I swear to God, I remember seeing what you described. They just screamed. Jaren, 2005. Oh God, yes, the little girl, Janice. I remember seeing her shake and then the skin taker screaming through his gnashing teeth, his jaw careening so wildly I thought it would come off its wire hinges. I turned it off and it was the last time I watched. I ran to tell my brother and we didn't have the courage to turn it back on. Mike Painter, 65. I visited my mom today at the nursing home. I asked her about when I was little and in the early 70s, when I was 8 or 9, and if she remembered a kid show, Candle Cove. She said she was surprised I could remember that, and I asked why, and she said, because I used to think it was so strange that you said, I'm going to go watch Candle Cove now, Mom, and then you would tune the TV to static and just watch dead air for 30 minutes. You had a big imagination with your little pirate show.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Oh, mama. Damn, I like that. Ooh, that's my favorite one.
Right? It's a good one. I like the ending.
Yeah.
Because it's this group of people recounting this thing that never happened.
Ooh.
But they all remember specific details about it too.
Poor Kevin Hart.
Poor Kevin Hart.
That final episode. Oh, I hate it. That's so terrifying.
It's so freaky and surreal.
Yeah. No, I swear, Channel 58.
Yeah. And it was on in 71 for a couple of months.
What happened? What the fuck was it?
I don't know, man. Can you imagine being in this group of people though? If this were a real thing and like you're all recounting things and it's like there was never a thing.
Yeah. Oh, that's
all
weird.
These kids staring at static. And then years later, do you remember that show? Yeah.
Damn.
I remember that one hit me pretty hard when I first read it.
That's a good one. I actually, when I was looking at some, I saw Candle Cove.
Yeah.
I wish I would have clicked on it.
It's one of the more famous ones. One that I didn't read today that I think is one of my favorites is called No End House.
Okay.
And it's definitely one of the best out there.
Well, we'll have to get you to share it if we do another episode of Creepypastas at some point.
Yeah, for sure. This was fun.
Oh,
I love
creepy.
Creepypastas, man. I love this shit.
Yeah.
And this is the shit I read at night, too. Like, I'll do this right before bed, read creepy stories.
Mm-hmm. Well,
love that shit.
Stephen King is my favorite author.
Yeah.
I think reading, I think reading a book or reading a scary story can just do so much more than like a horror movie ever could.
Well, yeah, because you have to put it together yourself.
Yeah.
And it plays off of your fears, right?
Yeah.
Like when
you can always find a way to draw from your own experience when you're reading something.
And then it feels more personal.
Yeah.
And then you place yourself in that and it just is so much scarier, right?
Oh, terrifying stuff.
That's why I love this shit.
Yeah. I actually, I'm not too proud to admit it, but made sure my door was locked after I finished reading Goatman.
Hell yeah.
I don't know why. I live literally downtown in a giant city, but
on like a high floor.
on the 12th fucking floor. Like there's no chance. But I needed to make sure.
Yeah. I get it. Dude, I get it.
Oh.
Could be living right next to Goatman. You never know it.
Yeah, I mean the park is right there.
Yep.
Scary.
All right. And with that, I think we are done for this episode. Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out with us.
You can follow us on Twitter at It's 3 a.m. Pod, just to see what we're up to.
Have you made a tweet yet? Have you?
Yeah, man, I've been tweeting.
Have you? Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
I swear. I have to go tweet now. But yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this. We might do more of this stuff. We love creepy things, obviously. But yeah.
Yeah, that's about it. Go to bed, everybody.
Yeah, go to bed.